welcome back to the Hennessy's house with me, your host, Nicole Hennessy. Today, we are going to talk about how life can get messy, but that doesn't mean that we cannot step through it and get into our own magic. And to tell us all about that is Gina Bell, who is the founder of Tears and Tool movement, as well as the author of the Tears and Tool. So thank you so much for being here with us today, Gina.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor to share this space with you. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. This is perfect for this platform because what we do here is share people's personal stories as well as how to get through dark times and move on to the bright light at the end of the dark tunnel. And I feel like your movement is exactly aligned with that concept. So I would love if you would just kind of start with telling us what inspired you to start this movement and how this all came about for you.
Sure, yeah. For years, I had been wearing like normal, colorful tulle skirts, and I had thought about them differently than the tulle skirts that we grow up seeing. So they don't fit into some kind of box like a ballerina or a princess or a bride. It's a different type of tulle metaphor for me. So I think of it as being layered and colorful and it just going deeper into the roots of who we are. And so I was actually on an abandoned overpass on a photo shoot in Orlando, Florida. I'm from Chicago. And someone had just gifted me this beautiful multicolored rainbow tulle skirt that was like bigger than I am. I had to like climb into it. And I had paired it with a black tank top to represent how I was able to show up in that space from within like the tears and the tulle moments. So it wasn't just this colorful, amazing moment. Um, it was a week before the anniversary of my mom's passing. It was the week that I found out my husband was going to have brain surgery when I returned home. There's just a lot going on. And so pairing the black with the color, I decided to show up in that space anyway. And so someone said, "Hey Gina, can you run in that skirt?" They had a drone that was flying above my head, and I said, "I think so." And I fluffed it up all around my body, and I was in my bare feet, and I just took off down the overpass. And I would later describe it like I felt like there were seeds just like bursting out of my body, like going into the world. And I wanted other people to feel that feeling, if even for just a moment. It was like the skirt gave me permission to show up in that space.
Yeah.
And so I brought the skirt home. I fell asleep on the plane, and I had a dream that these little tulle packages were floating down into the homes of different women. I had no idea what it meant. It would be about 9 months later, and I would decide to share the skirt with 52 women over 52 weeks across the US and Canada. So it, like over a year's time, it kind of all came together that way.
I love that. I mean, and that thank you for sharing what you were going through at that time too. And it's like, it also reminds me of how in those really hard moments, sometimes we don't allow ourselves to have a moment of joy because it makes us feel guilty for feeling happy while we're also dealing with grief or just overall sadness or despair for whatever reason. And so allowing it did, right? Like the skirt gave you that feeling of like fun, the fun, fruitful you, and allowed you to feel that. And man, don't we all need that, especially nowadays?
Oh my gosh, you just said something. I have this especially when is what okay, so I'm just going to explain this real quick. I call the tears and tulle moments of life the even when, especially thens of life. So you say something positive about yourself, like I am capable, even when I forget the Netflix password, especially then. So you always end your sentence with an especially then, so we can all kind of be in this space together. But you just said especially, and it reminded me of how I connect people with the story and how they end up being like pages of this book. So
I
yeah,
love
thank
I love that. Yeah, I
you.
well, I love that because it is so important because that's what we're talking about, right? Is like even when things are hard, you are still allowed to find joy and love in your life. And it is especially important to do so in those moments, because if you don't, you get yourself in this hole of despair and you can get so depressed. And it is so hard once you get far enough down there to dig yourself out of it, you know?
Absolutely.
So finding those moments, and that's relatable to all humans. Obviously we speak to a large audience of women, but to all humans, that is very true, you know,
Absolutely.
no matter what you're going through in life. So you started this movement, and so women, so you send the skirt to women, and do they do a photo shoot in the skirt?
They
Yeah.
do. Yeah. They
You know
all
that I'm
pair.
actually a photographer by trade. So I think that that makes me love this like story even more, because like the reason I love photography so much, and I mostly work with women. So I work a lot with like high school seniors, and I do a lot of boudoir and maternity. And the whole concept there for me is like helping a woman see herself as beautiful when she doesn't, right? Like, because my favorite thing is people look at a picture and say, wow, that's me. And I'm like, that's how everybody else sees you. Like, I'm glad that you get to see yourself that way now. And I feel like your tulle skirt and a photo shoot is that, is that same thing, right? It's that freeing moment.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. The women pair the skirt with something black to represent their struggles. And we've had murals, we've had shirts, we've had shoes, we've had wings, we've had different ways they've expressed that, those tears moments. But yeah, I think so many of the women have reached back out and said, one person just said the other day that she thinks about her moment out in the snow in the skirt every day because it helps her to remember that she's powerful and that she has this capability. So yeah, I totally agree with you that the photo portion of the movement, and everyone submits photos back to me, is very powerful because the photographer is also part of the magic that's being made. So it's not just the woman's story, it's the photos and everything and how it comes together.
Yeah. And to capture that moment that feels freeing to them. Right. And then, I mean, to me, photographs are so important because our memories fade with time. And those visual pieces are so important, especially like I say that with like maternity shoots. Like it's such a short portion of our lives. And then those photographs help you to remember that always. Right. So this is like that moment where they realize like it's okay to find joy during a hard time. And that image will always be there for them to remember that part of the story. So I think it's
I'm like,
perfect.
I'm a mom of six. I'm like getting really emotional while you're talking. I feel like I might cry. Yeah. Those are some of the most magical times in a person's life, I feel like, are
Yeah.
the maternity portion of things. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. It is. It's like, and it is, it's such a short little glimpse of time. And you forget, right? You forget what you're going through in the moment when so much time has passed. So this is another one of those things that who knows how you'll impact these women down the road. I mean, it could be 10 years from now and one of these women could be going through one of the hardest struggles in their lives, and this image might help them to dig out of it, you
Yes.
know? And you got to give that to people. Like that's awesome. This isn't just like a today I felt empowered. This might help women 10 years from now.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
love that.
we had a participant a couple months ago. She did her pictures out on a playground, which was amazing. She said she hadn't been on swings in the longest time. And one of the things that we had quoted her saying was that you never, and I'm not going to quote her perfectly, but that you're never going to know who you're reaching, that it could be anyone that's looking up to what you're doing at that point in time, even if it ends up being your own self at some point or your younger self that's looking to you for wisdom. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Um,
Yeah. Well, it really connects. Don't you feel like it really connects women with their inner child?
oh my gosh, this
Because
is the
it's
book,
such a
The Tears and
playfulness.
Tulle. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's what I needed as a kid.
Yeah. So this, yeah, this is a great segue. So I've seen you read your book, and while I understand it's for all ages, it was funny because I'm like, this looks like a children's book, right? The illustrations are colorful and beautiful. It's a short story. But then at the same time, I was like, what? Like, I relate to this. I love this book. So it is really for all ages. And it's a great way for mothers or fathers to connect with their children and help their children feel empowered, especially like nowadays there's so much judgment and bullying, and to help a child to give them that imaginary piece to feel empowered to be true to themselves is so, I mean, there really is no words for it. It's such a great metaphor because children are so imaginary, and then we lose that as we get older, and this really helps bring that childhood play back into your life.
Yeah, it absolutely does. So, Tears in Tulle, the story that was inspired by my childhood and the movement, um, it was written, it wasn't supposed to be a picture book. And then all of a sudden, I like reached out to every ancestor, every woman who came before me, including my mom who passed a few years ago. And I said, I need some help with this, you guys. Like, how can we write this together? Like, all their dreams coming into the picture too. And it ended up being like a women's empowerment picture book that I needed for me, that I needed to write for myself so that I could remember. And it was also the book I think I needed as a kid, to know that it was okay to celebrate the failures and or what we perceive as failures, and the glorious, happy, wonderful times in life, but that there was space for both of those things. And so, yes, I love it when like an adult woman reads it and she's like surprised by the connection that, she has with the girl growing up in the story and going through real, struggles and connecting with her color through it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is beautiful. Will you talk about what the story of the book a little bit? You can read it if you would like to. Or you can just clip note it if you'd like. It's I know it's not a huge chapter book. So
It's not, yeah, I'll read it.
okay.
I'll read it. And so, Tears in Tulle, written by Gina Bell, illustrated by Elena Michelatis. One day, a baby girl was born wearing a skirt made of tulle. It was bright and colorful, like a rainbow jewel. The skirt was invisible, seen just by the girl. She giggled happily, watching its wild colors swirl. The skirt connected the girl to her magic, color, and dreams. When she was full of tears, the skirt sent her heart joyful beams. As the girl grew and grew, the magical skirt did too. Soon she realized that life could be messy and unfair. She needed to remember her skirt would always be there. She fluffed her skirt and jumped to her feet. She would wake up the skirt with her own special beat. Skip, dance, swish, twirl. Remember the spirit of that magical girl. Sometimes she felt scared, embarrassed, and like she didn't have a clue. So she fluffed her skirt and remembered the fun of trying something new. There were times she felt left out, misunderstood, and like she would never, ever fit in. So she fluffed her skirt and remembered to be comfortable in her own skin. Skip, dance, swish, twirl. Remember the spirit of that magical girl. And when life was just too much and her eyes filled with tears, she fluffed her skirt and remembered she could learn from her fears. The tears made her wise and watered the dream in her heart. Fluffing her skirt, she remembered she was a growing work of art. Skip, dance, swish, twirl. remember the spirit of that magical girl. As she grew older, her days could feel overwhelming, crazy, and long. So she fluffed her skirt and remembered she was radiant, resilient, and strong. Sometimes it felt like her life was falling apart at the seams. So she fluffed her skirt and remembered she could always connect to her dreams. Skip, dance, swish, twirl. Remember the spirit of that magical girl. She celebrated her failures and the lessons they taught her along the way. She fluffed her skirt and remembered she had something important to say. She trusted the wisdom in her heart to help others grow, learn, and heal. Fluffing her skirt, she remembered her struggles made her beautiful and real. Skip, dance, swish, twirl. Remember the spirit of every magical girl.
I love it. And the illustrations are so beautiful. I
I
love
need to
it.
give more shout outs to my illustrator, Elena, because she is just an incredibly talented woman when it comes to bringing imagination to life.
Yeah. I love how when she's holding up the skirt and it looks see-through, right? And you're talking about how it's invisible. Yeah. And I love the line that her tears make her smarter. Right. And because like, gosh, isn't that the truth about life? Like, it's hard when you're in a dark and not so fun place in the world. You don't see that, right? It's just like it's a bad experience you're going through. But as someone, and obviously yourself can relate to, once you have moved past those really dark, hard things, um, they shape us, right? And we get to decide how. Like we get to choose for ourselves what that means for our lives and how we're going to use that. And somebody recently asked me like um about assault and said like, what how are you going to let assault impact your life, like talking about my life. And I said, I get to use it to speak out and let others feel less alone. And that's the tool I get to build to help others out of an experience I've been through, right? So we all have that opportunity in life with different things because we're all so much more connected, I think, than we realize when it comes to hardships.
Oh, yes.
Right. There's not a situation in the world that in some way your story won't make somebody else's feel less alone and give them hope, right? And so it is so true that the tears do give us knowledge and strength, and it's important. It's important to cry and to hurt and
Absolutely.
have feelings. We're not robots. We're meant to, right?
Absolutely.
But yeah, the book is beautiful. I love it. Where can people order your book at? Is it on Amazon
It's
or?
on Amazon, but it's also on my website, www.ginabell.co. So if you're in the US, I would suggest going there and ordering it because there's some other fun things on my website. But yeah, you can go to Amazon if you're anywhere else in the world.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and we'll link that below if anybody's interested in getting that. You know what it sounds like it would be great? It reminds me of this thing I recently did. I bought crowns for my girlfriends and sent them to them. And I was like, how great would it be if you were going through a really hard time to get like a crown in the mail, right? And be like, hey, don't forget you're a queen. Like you've got this. And your Tulle skirt is that same concept to me. So like how cute, even though it is a picture book, like it would make my entire week if I was going through a hard time and somebody sent me like a Tulle skirt in your book in the mail, right?
Yes.
Like
And there's some, oh,
that
go
would
ahead.
be the best present.
So far, we've been wrapping them in tulle ribbon. So when they're delivered to someone's house, they come in a tulle ribbon. And I can't explain it exactly, but there's something that happens when, especially an adult woman, a woman wears a tutu or a tulle skirt of any kind and actually does the moves from the book. Like if you were to get up right now and you were to skip and dance and swish and twirl like you might have when you were 4 or 5, it like activates some kind of magic in your soul and helps you remember who you are.
Yeah.
It just does. I don't know. It's hard to
You,
explain.
You mean like I did last night while cooking dinner? I don't I but I preach that all the time of like listening to music you enjoy and just dancing around and being goofy, like nobody's watching, or dance by yourself. You don't need a partner, right? These things really do. I mean, there is science behind it. Like it really does change the chemical balance in our body in a moment. It's the same as like when you exercise, it releases hormones in your body and helps reduce the effects of depression, right? It really does. So yeah, doing it in a tulle rainbow skirt, that's awesome. Even like a little girl that's going through a hard time with bullying, like to get her like a little tulle skirt in the book. Like,
Yes.
oh my gosh. Not that I want to know any little girls going through a really like major crisis, but
Oh,
like
sure.
if I ever know one, I'm doing that. Like, that's what I'm doing.
I think there's something magical too about little kids seeing adult women wearing tulle skirts and showing struggle and happiness. Like there's something, I think anyone who participates in the movement is like a super role model in my eyes of, making space for that kind of thing.
Right. And it is so important. It's like there are key things that sometimes we don't feel comfortable talking about with our children, and or we hide, right? I think as moms, like a lot of times we try to hide our strong feelings when they don't involve our children, because we try to protect them and let them stay little kiddos and not have to worry about real life things. I'm sure a lot of us can relate to that right now with like anxieties with COVID and stuff like that, but versus like what we're saying. You're careful what you say in front of your children about it. So you have these situations, but the reality is there is a time and a place to share those things or let your kids see that you're upset. It doesn't mean you have to go into every detail, but to say, you know what, I'm having a hard time this week. Mom's feeling a lot of feelings, and that's okay. That's part of life. Like I'm just having some feelings right now, and we're going to get through this. And something that makes me feel better is doing this. Would you like to do it with me? And showing them
Wow.
that's okay.
Yes, absolutely. My daughter, Sam, just posted something. I'm actually pulling it up right now. So it was a Simpsons meme. And
I mean, who doesn't like The Simpsons? That's fine.
right. I'm not exactly sure. Let's see. It says, despite having no evidence, I'm still convinced that everyone in my life secretly hates me. She posted this. She's 23. And I looked at it for a second and I was like, whoa, and she was half kidding, she posted this, but I could really relate. Like I sent her a text message. I said, hey, mom can really relate to what you're saying about not feeling liked, and so I ended up commenting under her post, and there was that moment as a mom where I'm like, oh, don't tell her that, don't show her the pain that you're feeling that's associated with maybe not feeling like people like you. And then I think it does take a little bit of bravery to share inappropriate circumstances and all that. And, she's older at this point, so it's easier to kind of
Right.
share more. But yeah, I'm really relating to what you're saying. It's not always the easiest thing to do because we don't want them to feel pain, but in another way, I think it really does help them to relate with us more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was like my little brave moment. I'm like, I'm going to get into that space with her because I think it's important for her to see her mom
As
as a
human.
real person.
Yeah. Because the
Yeah.
more you see, like, I mean, if you, especially when you're close with your children, when they look at you as this like super mom, um, they hold themselves to a like unrealistic expectation sometimes, I think. Because we create this environment where our kids look at us and think like, wow, my mom is like, she's takes care of so many things and she's got it all together, and like she always seems so brave and strong or whatever it is. But like there isn't a human in this world that doesn't have moments of weakness or sadness or fear and anger. Like it happens to every one of us. We all have the same emotions. How we express them is different, but we all have them.
We do. I always say, unless you were raised in a bubble with a blindfold on, you've had something that has happened to you in your life that can connect you to somebody else that's going
Yeah.
through something with a similar emotion. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And I do, like my kids range from 7 to my oldest will be 18 this weekend. So like the sharing is different for each one. So the sharing for the little ones is like, oh wow, that is a big feeling you're having. Like I have big feelings like that too sometimes. Do you want to talk to me about how you're feeling? Do you want me to tell you what helps me in those moments? And then with the 18-year-old, it's like, oh yeah, I know what you're going through and I can share relatable stories with her, right? And connect with her. I'm a very open book though. So like for me, that's very like sometimes I'm like, did I overshare? Like
Me
is
too.
is that inappropriate? I don't know.
Sure.
Um, but it keeps us grounded and it lets her know that, yeah, I'm a human too. I think that's great. Are there stories that you've heard people get back to you with from their Tulle Skirt experiences that really stick out to you?
Oh my goodness, there's so many.
I'm sure they're all wonderful, but like, is there one that made you feel like as the person who started this, right? Has anybody said their story to where you feel like that is why I did this? That's why I created this.
Yeah, we have had so many different people from different walks of life that have showed up for this movement. And I've got all these little stories floating around in my head what to share. We have a spoken word artist that is a model and a spoken word artist. Her name is Ariel Astoria. And she shared her tears and Tulle moment, her even when, especially then moment. And she said that she had something important to say, even when she didn't have a stage to perform on. And I always keep her quote with me when I'm trying to share this message with the world, because I think in today's world of social media and likes and comments and who's got what in that area, we could forget that we have really amazing stuff to offer the world, even when nobody's watching, like that we can still connect with our own mission and purpose and passion and hope that that will trickle out into the world and that people will connect with it. So I always think about her story. We had a participant, her name's Winter Red, and she took her and her husband. They have a bunch of really cool podcasts, but they have one that's about stillborn babies and pregnancy and connecting with the feelings and sharing what that's like and how other people, like, it's so tears and Tulle. It's allowing people to really get into that space with them. And she took her pictures with these black balloons, and she had a black dress on, and it showed her pregnant belly, and she was celebrating the the emotions and the story of her son that was born, was stillborn, and the tears and Tulle of being pregnant again. And it was just such a powerful picture of what tears and Tulle is. And every time one of these women shares something really deep, it's like I have no idea where it's going to evolve and how it's going to grow and how people are going to connect with each person's individual story. We've had people uh, protesting. We've had people that went out and wore wings during their time with the skirt. It's just been so many different unique experiences, and no one has been like the other. So if you go to ginabell.co and you look at where's the skirt, you can follow it in real time and see all the different stories that came about.
Because these are women from all over, right?
Yes.
And this quote that you said with the like having something to say even when you don't have a stage is like that's what it is for all these women. right? That's what it is for all these women. It's like you're kind of giving them that moment on a stage to share their stories. And even though they're all uniquely different because everybody's is, they're all connected by like being these women who have been through hard things but can still find joy in their lives. And I think it's interesting to me to think about, like, I wonder if you have inspired some of these women's to do more with their whatever their moment was, right? To create their own platforms or to speak out, or maybe that's the first time they've ever shared their story out loud, you know? So that's, I mean, that's big, right?
It is. Yeah. I it's just not the tool we grew up with. You know what I mean? It's like you could take something you saw your whole life. I mean, if you ever saw a bride or a ballerina, you saw it. If you ever saw a Disney princess, my goodness, you've seen it. Um, but it's not just changing the way we look at tool. It's sort of changing the way we look at the patterns we can get stuck in our lives. And so, yeah, I think that there's definite power, and that the skirt not only, you don't like wear it for a moment. I always ask people, like, how do you feel when you get it and how do you feel when you give it, like what's in all the space in between. But I think that the skirt really stays with people longer than just the moment that they are taking their photos with it.
Yeah. Well, and those photos mean they get to have a piece of it with them for life. So that's amazing.
We're going to put a magazine together at the end of it, all this, and it'll have all the, it'll be a nice display of everyone's stories and art and all the cool photographers that were part of it and all that good stuff.
I love it.
Yeah.
Is there for you, like in your personal life, where you say like you've gone through these things that were the tears part of life for you? Are there particular things that helped you to work through them? Obviously, your Tulle skirt, but are there other things in your life that really helped you to work through out yourself out of those hardships?
Yeah, I think learning to spend time with myself
Mm.
wasn't always the easiest thing for me to do, but Julia Cameron, she wrote The Artist's Way, and she has this exercise called morning pages you could do. And she has these artist dates, and you go on dates with yourself. And I think that that could be so powerful. The first time I went to the movies by myself, I was like, looking around, like I felt like this strange person in the theater by myself. And after a while, that got easier. It's like I got to watch a film and connect with it, my own laugh, my own, everything connecting with whatever was happening in that movie. And like, I think throughout the years, I've tried to develop that more. I often tell people, get an hourglass with actual sand in it and flip it, and let your family know when they see the hourglass flipped and the sand's going, that's the time I'm spending, on my own for a little while.
Do
So
you think
those are
they
a
have
couple.
hourglasses that last like a weekend?
I have a 3-minute one because I'm like, well, like
I would
there's a
like
20 and a 3.
after COVID, like I'm just gonna get one that's like a whole weekend and be like, I'm going to Hawaii and don't call me. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes. Oh gosh, that'd be great if they had hourglasses that lasted like 24 hours. Yeah.
Somebody's gonna make one now, watch. No, I do love that. I just did 2 weeks ago the podcast episode that went out. So well, when this one goes out, it would be different. But it's Kendra was a guest on the podcast, and I asked her what she did when and she said, I like to hang out with myself and we have a good time. And I
Yeah.
loved her verbiage. I was like, what? That's so cute. I love that.
That's
Uh,
awesome. Get yourself some flowers and yeah, like that's
yeah.
so cool.
Yeah. And the like going to the movie theater thing, don't you feel like I think women, especially, we do this, like we're always concerned that the people with us are having a good time. Like, oh, do they think that this is funny? Are they enjoying this? And if you're by yourself, like you get to get out of that headspace completely.
You do. And I challenge anyone who's listening, next time you watch a movie, see how much you're influenced. And sometimes it's like good. You're like, oh, they're laughing. And I guess that is funnier than I thought. But I will adapt to my situation and I will laugh, even if maybe it wasn't something I'd laugh at if I was sitting by myself. So it's like you have a moment to really connect with your own emotions and how you really feel about something aside from, I don't know, your family or your friends being around.
Yeah. I have a husband who's not very expressive, and I always tease him about it. Like I'll tickle him and he'll like go like he tries, he looks like he's constipated, like he doesn't want to laugh. And I'm like, you it won't hurt you. It won't hurt you if you laugh. And I mean he does, don't get me wrong, but he's not as expressive. So I always do that with him. Like if we're watching a movie, I'll be like, no, we don't think this is funny, or I'm like, does he like? Then I start thinking like, does he think this movie is bad? Should we turn it off? Is he not having a good time? And because I don't know why we. It's like it's okay to not care sometimes what everybody else is thinking about a situation and to think about yourself.
Yes.
But us women tend to naturally put most people before we put ourselves.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so showing up for yourself and dating yourself, so to speak, is really important. Yeah,
If you
do
can
you
find a roller rink by your house that has like, I go to like the Wednesday morning before COVID, like senior skate where there's, it's like usually 60 and above. I just roller skating by myself and just kind of meditating almost in that space can be really powerful too.
I recently said that somebody needs to bring back these skating rinks because I don't think there's any around us. And I remember like growing up, that's what we did. Like we were always at the skating rink and it was awesome. I'm like they need
Oh
to have
yeah.
one that only plays like 80s and 90s music and it's it's for the older generations, right, that miss that, and like the kids can't come, like it's just for us. And
Oh
that
yes.
should be a thing.
Well, I have a rink by my house, and I've been debating on whether or not to have a Tears and Tulle tutu party at the skating rink. And now I think that you've inspired me to actually move forward with that.
You should
So
totally.
thank you. You feel passionate like I do about about the roller rinks.
Yeah, I hate that, like that's not a big thing that we do anymore, and it's such a great teenager activity.
Oh yeah.
It's like we would go to the mall or we would go to the skating rink. And now
Mhm.
there is nothing. I feel bad for teenagers today. Like everything's gone out of business and like I don't know. Maybe it'll come back though. I feel like the 90s and 80s are definitely in style right now, and so maybe some of that kind of stuff will start to come back. We'll see it.
I hope so. Well, I'll send you pictures and put stuff online and all that if I do have a big skate party.
You'll have to let me know. I'm in Maryland and our family's all in Chicago. So maybe
Well,
we'll happen to be there.
I will send you an invite.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I would love to go skating.
It was
Um,
where our rink is where Jennifer Hudson had a roller skating movie, and so it's the same. It's that same rink. They changed it to be the Sweetwater, which wasn't what I was called. Anyway, I'm just rambling about that.
no, I think it's awesome.
It's fun.
I think it makes it more fun.
Mhm.
Okay, so other than spending time with yourself, which obviously is like a huge thing, do you, or when you were going through hard times, did you like get a life coach or a therapist or journal or any of that kind of stuff?
Oh my gosh, yes, 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 and yes. I have had. I used to not tell anybody this, and now I just feel like it's so important. I have had the same therapist for 13 years at this point, and as I was going to therapy, I kind of kept that hidden a lot. And now I'm starting to wear it more of like a badge of honor, something that has helped me grow so much throughout my life.
Yeah.
And I didn't understand it until I found a good fitting therapist. And so I think when that happens, you can really, find different avenues, different routes in your world to do things that inspire you more and can help inspire others. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's meditation I try to do regularly. I do yoga. I do journal in the morning. Julia Cameron's morning pages. And all of those things have really helped to keep me centered. And it's not that I don't totally fall off all of that at times, where I just, get into these sort of distractive patterns. But yeah, those things have helped me a lot.
Yeah. No, I mean, I hear a lot of this, time and time again, but it's so important. I have a therapist as well, and I love her. So I preach therapy all the time to people, and I have life coaches come on, and I think that therapy and life coaches are both amazing. And I think that there is a need for both depending on like where we are in our life cycle and what we're going through at the time. And I always say that like therapy is like AA. Like if, with alcoholism, it's like you can't just walk into an AA meeting and be like, "Ooh, this is not for me. It's not going to help me." Because every room you walk into is a different group of individuals with different stories. And sometimes maybe they've all been sober for 50 years. And sometimes maybe they're drunk at the meeting, right? Like, and you never know what kind of atmosphere you're going to walk into, or if it's really preachy or more laid back, and like where you fit into that. And therapy is a lot like that too. It's a human who has a personality, and not everybody meshes well. And if you don't trust and connect with a therapist, you're not going to have breakthroughs in therapy. So you can't go to a therapist and be like, therapy is not for me. And you can't go to an AA meeting and be like, AA is not for me. Maybe it's not for you. I'm not saying AA is for everybody that deals with addiction, but I am saying that you have to try things a handful of times and give it a chance. But my therapist, I love her because she's wise. She's older than me. She is very like, okay, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, I'm going to call you out on this. And I need someone in my life that'll call me out on my shit. My husband loves me to death and would never do that for the most part. And obviously my kids aren't doing it and my best friend's not going to do it. So who's going to like make me see my side of things better, you know?
Right.
Yeah, life coaches and therapists is all that's what it's for. Everybody get one. I don't even care if you think your life's perfect. It's not. Go get one.
Absolutely. I think everyone could benefit. Like, I really do.
Yeah. It is I love that times are changing, like you said, how you used to hide it, and that it's not so like embarrassing to say anymore, because mental health is becoming more prominent, right? We're speaking out about it more as a society, in a whole society. And that's helpful. And I think it's good. I agree with you to share. Like, yes, I have a therapist, because then it makes other people not feel like weird about it.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Gina, I really, really, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing with us. And I love this whole movement you're doing, and I'm so excited about it. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I hope people are able to connect with my story.